Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Amy Sam. I am the Health Education Project Specialist at the Maxwell Eleanor Blum Patient Family Learning Center at Mass General.
Hi, my name is Kathleen. I'm the intern at Blum Patient Center.
Today's program is part of our 2024-2025 Blum Center Well-Being Series, the first of the series. Before we get started, I want to go through items with you all. Please note that today's session is being recorded for educational purposes. If you're interested in viewing the recording, it'll be made available on the Blum Center website at massgeneral.org/Blum-Center. Please note that you are in listen-only mode. Everyone has been muted so they can hear our guest speaker today. If you have any comments, thoughts, or questions you'd like to share, please feel free to do so in the chat, which is located at the bottom of your screen. Only Blum Center staff and our guest speaker will see your comments, questions. Please do not share any personal medical information or questions in the chat. If you have a personal medical question, please ask your doctor. Lastly, at the end of today's session, you'll be directed to a brief survey, which we'd like to ask you to help us complete. Your feedback is important to us as we plan future programs. Okay, so next I'm going to turn it over to Catherine, who will introduce you all to today's guest speaker.
Thank you, Amy. Joining us today is Carmen Alvarez. In addition to her role as the Director of Radiology Administration Strategic Programs, Faculty Affairs, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, Carmen is a well-being teacher and coach. As a certified workforce mindfulness facilitator, she integrates mindfulness and well-being to provide a comprehensive and integrated wellness approach. Carmen is also a certified Reiki master and has served as a Reiki therapist at Mass General Hospital in Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston since 2018. She joined us today to lead a session on stress and the mind-body connection. Please join us in welcoming Carmen.
Thank you, Catherine. It's very sweet of you to introduce me, and thank you, Amy, for putting together this marvelous series. I just realized that I haven't had a chance to share with all of you that aside from my well-being work that I do across MGH via the MGH Workforce Wellbeing Collaborative, I've taken on a new role that has me looking after the MGB International Patient Services internationally, externally, with an attention to Latin America. So that is something that is very new, and I had not had a chance to discuss with all of you. Welcome, everybody, to the first of our series. We started this last year, and perhaps some of you had joined us then. Last spring, we started doing a series, and it turned out to be so popular. We added 2 more, so we ended up doing about 3. And so this year we knew that in the planning of the program for the next year that we should include it as well. We're very pleased to see so many of you who are interested in well-being and stress management overall. I'm really curious and really would like to get a sense of who you are at the audience. Because of protection and privacy, I am not able to see you. I don't know who you are. So we can utilize the chat to interact with one another. And it would be great if you could tell me if you are a colleague, if you're an employee, part of FGH or MGB, or if you are part of our lovely patients and families community. So if you could please in the chat, just let us know if you are either or the other so that we have a good sense of who's with us here today. This series is open to all. It's open to our patients and families because that is the mission of the Blum Center. But it's also open to our community that are our colleagues and employees and staff. So thank you for joining. Oh, I love it. Nancy, retired MDH nurse. I love Nancy. Very well. I am so pleased to see a lot of our nurses here joining us. Great. So let's get started. since I know that your time is precious and that you're probably here for lunch. So thank you for being here. This is the beginning of our series. So today is going to be an introduction and it's going to be interactive. So please make use of the chat so that we can continue to do this as an interactive session. So here's a little preview of what we want to do today. We want to just discuss and understanding stress and what is the mind-body connection with stress. Where we may talk about stressors and the repeat stressors and how it affects the nervous system, although I'm not going to go into too much detail because we're going to have a whole series on the nervous system later on in the series. We'll definitely discuss how to prevent anxiety and burnout, and we'll talk about some very practical ways that we can introduce mindfulness in our day to mitigate the effects of stress. So, what is stress? Please tell me in the chat from your perspective, what do you think it is? What's your perception of stress? And while you're thinking, let me just ask you this. How do you feel in this moment? What were you thinking about right before we started? And as you are here right now, where is your mind? I would be curious, how many of us are thinking about what we need to do right after this? Be honest, I will not be offended. Or how many of us are thinking about what happened right before you came in here? Maybe something unpleasant, something that hurt your feelings, or something that has you worried. How many of us are thinking about what we left at home, right? That we need to go home and address afterwards? Yeah, overwhelmed, of course. The workload. Ah, yeah, stress about work week. It's Monday, so yes, it tends to be the time when we're thinking about what's to come. So we're already thinking it's Monday. We're thinking about everything that's coming the rest of the week and the workload. Exactly. So stress is actually our mind's way to navigate this back and forth. Stress is actually the vacillation the mind goes through between the past, the future, something that's happened, something that hasn't happened yet, the anticipation, and it's actually the back and forth so quickly, perpetually of the mind that creates the stress. And today we're going to go into all the different aspects so that just to unravel why that becomes stressful and why we feel it so much, so physically and so on. So stress is not actually the situation, it's not what's happening. Stress is actually your response, your body's response, your mind's response to the back and forth and the perpetual involvement in what has already happened and what hasn't happened yet. As you know, if you are worried about something that happened in the past, that's typically worry. It sometimes can bring up feelings of, I don't know, depending on what it was, a regret. Oh, I wish I should have, could have, right? That sort of thing. And then stress related to something that hasn't happened yet is more anxiety. So now I'm worried with the anticipation of something that is to come. So the body going back and forth between those things is what creates the stress. So now let's discuss the emotions that come along with this. And I touched on it just now before. There is a direct connection between our breath as well and our emotions. When we are thinking about something that happened this morning that caused you pain or stress, or even right now in this moment when you're thinking about, what to do next after this session or later this week. When you think about something unpleasant, how is your breath? Have you ever noticed? I have this cute little girl here that I found, and you can see she is representing some emotions. And I wanted to do that so that we could discuss how the breath behaves with the different emotions. When you're angry, how is your breath? Tell me in the chat if you can make this connection. Okay. I see I'm reading your comments in the chat, and thank you so much for sharing, Marie, how you are multitasking. Absolutely. And you mentioned the brain clutter. Absolutely. It's that constant vacillation of juggling so many things in your mind that's creating stress, of course. And then in the chat, hard to breathe when you're angry, Catherine said. Good observation. And how do we feel when we're happy in contrast? Most of the time, when you are surprised and it's good, or when you're given good news, we want to jump for joy, right? Or when we feel in love, our breath, it tends to be open. It expands, and we take in so much air. We've often heard about the saying of you're walking on air, right? When you're happy or you're in love. That's where that comes from, is that we naturally open so much more, take in so much more oxygen, and it's happening naturally. But that creates that feeling of walking on air because there's a lot more breathing going on. There's more oxygen coming in. And then in contrast, when we're sad, I don't know if you may have noticed on yourself or others, on patients, on family and friends, when we're sad, how is the breath? But sometimes it's like we're barely breathing. We're barely breathing. You've noticed this with depression, right? Depressed family members or friends, our patients, ourselves, we're actually barely breathe. And what I want you to understand is that all of these things, they're happening in the unconscious. You're not doing this on purpose. You don't have to think about how you're breathing. This is happening automatically. And this is just to illustrate that there is a response to how you're feeling or your emotion and how the body is responding to it through your breath. So it's an indication so that you can see that the body is always listening, and the body is a window to allow you to see that it's listening and responding. That's responding to how you breathe automatically without us having to do anything about it. Now let's think about the perception. What happens when we are under stress? There's a connection between the state of our mind and our perception. Those here with children, I wanted to show you a few little things here, but I think we teach children about this all the time, right? When we are stressed, we're full of emotions. When our mind is cluttered, as Marie was saying, what happens to our ability to see and perceive our reality? What happens to our ability to solve problems, even very easy problems? We see this happen a lot, right? Our perception is impacted. When there is stress, there is a body response, there is a brain response, there is a chemical response. All of these things collectively impact our ability to concentrate and our ability to find solutions. So when we are under stress, the brain response also is impacted, and so we lack creativity. And we also lose the ability to see the glass half full. It's a lot harder to see the glass half full when we are under stress. And that is a literal mind-body connection. It impacts the brain, our chemistry, the nervous system, And so all of this is happening at the same time, all at once, without you even sometimes noticing. And it's unconscious. Again, it's just happening. It's just natural. Now let's think about the sources of energy. I have it here so we can go through it, but I would love for you to please also put it in the chat for yourself in your own life. What are the sources of energy? I have a few of them here. There are really four main sources of energy for us. One is obviously food, right? The quality of our food, what we consume, really impacts the response in our body. We all know the difference between when we have some fruits and some fresh vegetables and when we have pizza in a big bowl of not salad, but pasta, right? How do you feel right after eating a bunch of carbs versus how we feel right after having salad or fruit? That's very easy. Oh, Catherine says watching Netflix. I don't know if that's a source of energy, but I see where you're going with it. We're going to touch on that. So food, the source of food that we eat, fresh versus or live food. Sometimes we hear that terminology, live, fresh fruit. Food is a source of energy. The other source of energy, obviously, is sleep. And I know that many of us here can say, well, that's non-existent. I have a brand new baby, or that's non-existent. I work nights and, but sleep, whenever or regardless of what time of the day you can get to it, is very, very important. It allows us to, experience that renewal of the cells and our brain, everything else, everything renews while we sleep. So it's obviously very, very important, and we are all very aware of that. I attended a symposium recently where we were exploring all of these topics, and we asked an expert from Stanford who has a lab studying the effects of lack of sleep and on people. And, we asked if she could do one thing to change the course of where we are headed as humankind in this world based on what she sees of the impact. And she absolutely said that she wishes more people knew the importance of balancing our cycle, our sleep cycle, and that we knew how important it is. That is, almost most important, even over food. So anyways, we know the importance of sleep. The other source of energy is, and someone said it here in the chat, thank you, it could be exercise and doing other things. Absolutely. Thank you for that. And someone else said, then the Netflix. Well, maybe the Netflix, something to occupy the mind. Exercise is a great source of energy. Doing something physical, obviously, is a great way to find energy. There is one last source of energy. By the way, the doing something physical, I see I have people here running, but this could also be doing something you love. This could be doing gardening or doing pottery, doing journaling. I know that some people do, they get creative with their hands, and definitely it's something that you enjoy doing. That could be a source of energy. That could be anything you love doing, even journaling, spending time with family and friends. You guys, do you not feel energized when you spend time with your friends you haven't seen in a while and you laugh? I mean, laughter is a source of energy. That connection goes back to the connection. So connection is a source of energy. So it's not just a physical exercise. It's actually when you do something that you love. It's actually when you're doing something you love so much, your mind is able to relax. You just float. Have you ever noticed how time passes really quickly when you're doing something you love, right? Nicely, when you say, oh my goodness, time flies when you're having fun. That saying is very true, because what happens when you do something you love is you lose track of the mind, the time, stress, your mind is able to just be. And you connect with something deeper. You actually go within. It's not something that we often talk about, but what happens when you lose yourself doing something you love, whether that is gardening, walking, running, or spending time with people you love, what is actually happening is that you have an ability to connect with yourself and others. You have time to go within, and that creates an incredible source of energy. So doing more of what we love. The last source of energy, who can guess it? Please, I really need your help with this one. If you can guess the last source of energy here. Who can guess it? I'll give you a hint. We are all doing it right now. Yeah, hopefully we're all doing it right now, and that is breathing. The breath. The breath is so incredibly important. It is a big source of energy. So let me invite you to do this. Please observe your breath. Observe your breath right now, or think about how your breath was right before I asked you to observe it. Was it deep or was it shallow? And there's no judgment here. It's just an observing. I would venture to guess that most of us were breathing very shallow. And that is the result of many things. I think in general, most of us simply breathe in that way. We haven't practiced any other way. We haven't learned any other way. And that's just a default. Some of us breathe very shallow because we are under stress, under anxiety, or under depression. We mentioned earlier how it is a way of breathing when you are depressed or sad. First thing you notice actually is that you're breathing very, very shallow. The deep breath is not something we use. We're used to doing naturally or by default, although that's the whole point of this session, is that we learn to mindfully and intentionally bringing a deeper way of breathing. My goal with this class is that we walk away with awareness of our breath. How am I breathing in this moment? Without judgment. When you find yourself in those situations, just observe your breath. Even if all we do is bring awareness to that, it would be incredibly helpful moving forward as we walk our way through the sessions and we learn more and more of the impact of this on our bodies. Awareness is a great start. The breath is so incredibly important because our lungs are very capable of detoxifying our body. Did you know that we are able to detox our body up to 80%? 80% of the toxins in our body exit the body through the breath. Or could. However, most of us only use 5% of our lungs capacity because we're usually breathing very shallow, right? Most of us breathe from here on the top, the chest area, right? So sometimes it's shallow, we have a tight chest, we're hunched over, definitely hunching over does not allow for deep breaths. And the lungs are divided in 3 sections. There's the top, the middle, and the lower one, which is more connected with the diaphragm or the abdominal. Yes, the abdominal, it's what we want to engage when we do the deep breathing. And we're going to practice this a little bit later on. So of those 3 parts of the lungs, most of us are usually at the very top, 5% of the lung capacity and breathing very shallow from the top. So what we want to do is engage all of the lungs and learn to breathe more deeply so that we allow in more oxygen, which in turn feeds our body the message that all is well. We not only get the oxygen benefits of being more oxygenated, but it's actually the connection and the messaging that we're sending our mind, that we're sending our brain, right? We saw the connection between the breath and the emotions. If our body is reading how we breathe and interpreting that to let your everything else to dictate through the body, the functions, your mind, to say, oh, we are sad right now, or oh, we're breathing very shallow, something very bad must have happened. Maybe we're in danger. What is happening? We're anxious. So the body and the brain is reading all of that information purely based on how you're breathing. So again, the awareness, if we know this now, that means that we can be intentional on how we breathe. If we breathe more deeply, our body will read it as all is well. And it will send the message to the brain that it's okay. We may have a lot of things to do, but she's breathing very open, so things must be under control. So that is the connection with our breath and how we can use it to our benefit when we are mindful, intentional. This just summarizes what we were just saying about is, when we breathe and we are aware of the mind-body connection, it boosts our mental health, right? It helps us manage the external situations in life. Obviously, it leads to a long, healthy life. And it facilitates detoxing. It facilitates all sorts of things that we're able to do when we are mindful of and aware of this connection. Please let me know if you have any questions on this. So again, just to summarize how this is all happening at the same time, and it's all taking place as we see automatically, our mind, our thoughts, our beliefs, and our emotions are connected to the body. How, whether we are exercising or our sources of energy, those two things equal how we feel overall. It impacts our well-being overall. And it's all interconnected. So therefore, now that we know all of these things, what we need to do is be intentional about how we use the breath actually to our benefit. It's already here, you guys. The breath is already happening. It's one thing that you do not have to worry about, right? We do this automatically. You don't have to try to do it. And it's also the one thing that's happening in the moment. You don't breathe, today and then say, I don't have to breathe tomorrow, or you don't say, I'm going to breathe enough today for tomorrow, or, any of that. No, the breath is always happening in the now moment, which is why in mindfulness, we use it as an anchor so many times, if you may have noticed during guided meditations, we use it as an anchor. Because it is happening now in this now moment. And every breath is an opportunity to connect. If your mind is wandering, I'm pretty sure your mind wanders right now. Right now, you're thinking about what you need to do next, it's okay. Every time you breathe in, it's an opportunity to reconnect, to come back. So that's why when we say come back to the breath, gently bring your mind back to your breath. It's an anchor, and we can be sure that it's there for you because you do it in the moment. And every breath is an opportunity to start over, to reconnect. I wanted to talk about awareness today. All of these things that we've been discussing, our emotions, our reactions to these situations that cause the emotions, the way that we're breathing as a response to situations, the emotions, and how it's all interconnected. Most of the times it's happening without awareness, right? So one of my main objectives of doing this series is that we gain awareness. So I would like to invite you all to do this exercise with me right now. It's very simple if you can. If you can do this while you're sitting, and if you could do it and close your eyes, wonderful. If you cannot close your eyes, then that's okay. You don't have to. I would like to take your hand, your right hand, your left hand, whichever hand you have that is free. Place it over your heart. It's very simple. Just place it over your chest, your heart. And if you can close your eyes, great. If not, just find a place to anchor your sight that is gentle and easy. Try to connect with your heartbeat. Notice the warmth of your hand over your chest. How does that feel? You take in a deep breath in. Notice how the chest expands. Do you feel any tightness in your chest? Was there a reaction of feeling your hand over your chest? How does it feel to have your own hand over your body? With love, with compassion, in this one moment of awareness. Take a deep breath in and see if your heartbeat. And now gently bring a sensation of gratitude to this moment, to this time to just stop and feel your heartbeat. It's gratitude for this warmth, the warmth of your own touch. Awareness to this moment. This very simple act, not only does it help you to bring awareness to your body, but also it's a way to bring love and compassion to yourself. We all know the power of touch. So often when we think of it, we think of touch someone else. Oh, right? When we feel compassion and empathy for someone, we want to put our hands over them, show them support. But we very seldom do that with ourselves. So this act of putting your hand over your chest and being aware of your warmth and your touch is very powerful. So bring this awareness also as we go into the next exercise, in which we learn a mindful breath practice that can help you throughout the day with your hands over your chest or not. Let's learn this very practical way of breathing that will help us expand our lung capacity. This one is called straw breath. And it's called that because what we'll do is breathe through our nose, but we'll be exhaling through our mouth by creating a small opening in the mouth as if you were holding a straw. A bigger straw, not a tiny straw, right? What we want to do with this is elongate the out breath so that it is as long as possible. And slowing how you're breathing, and therefore also increasing your capacity to take in more breath. So if you can, again, if you could do this together with your eyes closed or your eyes open, we can do this together now. And we'll do about 3 rounds of this, and I'd like you to notice how your body reacts and how you are before and after. So let's take a deep breath in through your nose. And the out breath now through the straw. And again, do not force the out breath. simply allow your lungs to empty. So this may take 4 counts, 6, 7, 8. We'll see how we go. As long as possible. Good. Now pause as we transition to another breath. Let's do the next breath in. Inhale very deeply, as much as you can, filling in the lungs through the nose. Pause and exhale through the straw that you made with your mouth. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Who made it all the way to 9 as you exhaled? If you didn't, don't feel bad. What's happening is that your lungs probably do not currently have the capacity to take in huge amounts of oxygen. We're so used to breathing so shallow. But the good news is that the lungs have the capacity to increase and expand. Obviously, we all know what the lungs look like. So we can practice, and the more we practice, the more you'll be able to fill in your lungs with more oxygen, and then you'll have really long out breaths that will allow you to relax. So let's do one last practice together. Transitioning, breathing normally. And then let's get ready to take a deep breath in together through the nose. Breathe in, deeply taking in all the oxygen, feeling the coolness of the oxygen coming in. Pause when you reach your capacity. Hold it for a little bit. And now let's get ready to allow the breath out slowly as your lungs empty. 3, 4, 5, 6. Great, and pause. And now let's go back to your normal breathing. I'd love to hear how that experience was for you. Did you learn something new about yourself? How was your breathing? It's very telling when we start doing this, right? I myself, when I started learning these mindfulness, I wasn't aware of how shallow my breath was. It's just how I was breathing all my life, and no one had taught me any differently. So my breath was very, very shallow. And afterwards, I was shocked that I could function with how shallow my breath was. And it was a stress response. Obviously, it was a stress response, anxiety, and everything else, or just habit. And so learning, bringing awareness to how I was breathing was very important. Great. Barbara says, when I exhale fully, I want to take a deep breath. Yes. Excellent, Barbara. And so that is our lungs and our body telling you this is actually natural. This is how our lungs want us to breathe. And this is how we are designed to breathe. That's the good news, you guys. The good news is that when you bring awareness to this and we start doing this, your body will be right there with you. It will be supporting you naturally, because it's the opposite that causes us more trouble. It actually takes more energy to breathe shallow or to keep ourselves tightened than it does to relax. In fact, I'll tell you something interesting. When we do mindfulness, I ask you to go into a meditative state. I often say, smile. Allow your face to go into a smile. Do you know why? This is actually your face relaxing. When you smile, all the n- muscles in our face actually relax. But when we are like this, we are stressed and angry, we need to engage so much more of our muscles to be angry and to look like this. So smiling is when you relax. Similarly with this, when we breathe deeply, we will naturally go into filling our lungs and having long exhale, because that is the natural rhythm of our bodies. Great. So this exercise that we just did together is great because you could do it at any time. It's great that we did it like this together. But you could do it while you're in line at the grocery store waiting, your turn. You could do this in between meetings. You could do this as you're taking care of a patient. You could do this as you're walking to the train. You could do this anywhere. Anywhere. So that's why I really like this exercise. That is very, very helpful. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. And so speaking of meditation, we often touch on this as well, because when you think of mindfulness, there are two major things. It's the breath and also meditation. Most people think about meditation, and I wanted to offer this to you. If you haven't heard this already. Meditation, yes, it's an experience, of course. It's the experience of relaxing the body, right? But it's also being in harmony with your thoughts. I don't, who here, and please raise your hand to tell me in the chat, what you think about meditation is. What's the perception? Is that meditation is, having no thoughts, or let me just clear my mind. I have news for you. That's not going to happen. I'm sorry. It's not. Your mind is a computer, and it is made to compute. It's always working, even when we sleep. Even when we sleep, the mind is like, right? It's just filling in what happened through the day and everything else. So the mind will do what it will do. Meditation is not emptying your mind or stopping it. It's not going to happen. However, what we can do is being in harmony with your thoughts there. It's bringing in that balance. Often in meditation, what we do is observe your mind. Just simply observe your thoughts coming in and pretend that they are clouds. Just allow them, like the cloud behind me, which, by the way, is my own picture. I took this not too long ago. That's a natural cloud formation. So we often say, observe your thoughts as if they were clouds, and just simply pretend, just allow them to float and continue to go. Don't fight it. Simply be in harmony with your thoughts being there. It's that connection to being the observer. That's the invitation. And similarly to the lung capacity, your meditation, you have the capacity to increase how much harmony you could be in while you're meditating. So meditation, is not measured by how many thoughts you have or don't have. Meditation is actually measured, or a good indication of meditation is how you're able to come back to your breath after your mind wanders. Does that make sense? So it's not the fact that you'll have no thoughts, it's your ability to bring your mind back to the breath, into the moment, to the now moment, every time your mind wanders. And we do that with love, we do that with compassion. And so your capacity to do that over and over and over again, that's your meditation practice. So it's not eliminating the thoughts, it's being in harmony with your thoughts and just being in awareness and bringing your mind back every time with compassion. And so now the other thing I wanted to offer too, that is the easiest way to meditate is to do something you love. So enjoying something, doing something you love is a way of meditation. You've ever heard of this saying of, when you do pottery, or when you write poetry, or when you're drawing, or when you're walking and your mind wanders, when you are cooking. A lot of people love to cook because it relaxes you, right? So doing something you love actually is a way of meditation. It puts you in a meditative state of being, which is when your mind, you could be having thoughts, but you don't care. or you're sort of thinking about something, but you're so you're enjoying your moment with the cooking and everything else, and so you don't mind, right? That's a meditative state. And so the message here is do more of what you love. Do more of what brings you to that state of being, and that is a way of meditation. That is a meditative state. And it's a source of energy, as we said earlier, right? So just to wrap up on that, obviously we know the benefits of meditation, but I invite you to view it as it's your opportunity to be the inner witness, connecting, observing your mind without judgment from an objective distance. You can bring in mindful breath like we did earlier, or you can simply do something you love, which is a lot more fun, right? It's a lot of fun. Now, just in wrapping up, how you can bring this into the work setting. So stress obviously has an impact on brain function, chronic stress, including, microaggressions and micro stress impacts our brain function, obviously. So it could affect your memory, your focus, and your emotional regulation, especially in the setting where we work in healthcare. So what we learned today can help you mitigate all of this in the following ways. This is how you can make it practical and bring it into your day-to-day. You can use mindfulness for stress relief, obviously, as we saw today with the breathing exercise, grounding exercises like we did with the touch. That's very grounding, right? When you are connected with your own, your breath, the warmth of your body, your body response. You can do this in the job all the time, by the way. Just do this in a quiet moment. It will help you focus your breath and listen to your breath and your heartbeat. That will help you. Use mindfulness as a tool to process emotions. Again, awareness now of how you start to breathe with different emotions. Just witness, just be a witness, a compassionate witness. And that will help you regulate your emotions as well. It allows for that pause. When you include a pause and awareness of how you are feeling or how you're reacting to a situation, it gives you such different perspective. It changes your perspective, as we saw earlier today. And obviously use it to enhance your own ability to concentrate, and it improves your awareness, your situational awareness, and you'll be doing better at everything that you are doing. Self-compassion is so huge. And that's why we did that exercise of putting your hand over your chest, over your heart. That practice of self-compassion, it reduces self-criticism and allows you to cultivate mental resilience. It also regulates your emotions too, as well. And you bring compassion and love towards yourself. I'd like to invite us to bring this into our team experiences, whether that your team is your colleagues or it could be family members. Bring it into team-based mindfulness. You can invite others to do this together. You can invite them to do it into a brief moment before a meeting. Take a minute to breathe together, or at the end of the meeting, do a round of gratitude. What are we grateful for today? What went well today? What fills your cup today? We're going to do this later in the series. We're going to do what fills our cup, right? And then mindful communication, obviously in teams and in groups, you can use mindfulness to enhance your communication with your team members, your family, and your friends. So here are the ways you can bring this into the team approach, bring it into your meetings. As I said, it will help you shift your culture. The 5-second mindfulness break meetings, the gratitude, celebrating each other, the kudos, and the short reflections. I wanted to pause and say that we have a lot of resources here at MGH that can help you and your team and in our all of our community, our patients as well. We have the Employee Assistance Program. They have webinars, they have online yoga, they have support groups too for our employees. So please go on the EAP website and see there is so much there that is offered for you. We also have weekly meditations via the MGH Center for Well-Being on Mondays and on Wednesdays from 8 a.m. to 8:20. We come together as a community and do a very short meditation together of 20 minutes. If you have 20 minutes to offer, that would be wonderful. The MGH Workforce Wellbeing Collaborative, of which I have the honor of being part of, is working hard to create more programs and more ways for all of us to explore well-being on campus. So please go on our website on Vitals so you could see the resources that we have listed there. And obviously this series, the Blum Center, is doing such a great job putting together these resources for everyone. Here's the rest of this series that is open to all of you moving forward between now and May. We'll explore the nervous system. We'll explore a lot more coming up. And so just in closing, I just want you to bring awareness to your day-to-day. Be aware of your breath. Be aware of self-compassion. And the call to action is awareness and doing more of what you love. And with that, I'd like to welcome your thoughts, your reactions, and thank you so much for your attention and for being here.
Thank you, Carmen.
Thank you, Amy. I'm going to thank you. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, while we wait to see if we have any thoughts people would like to share, want to see if you would have a moment to kind of give people a sneak peek of our upcoming sessions for the Wellbeing Series.
Sure. Can you see this okay, Amy?
Kind of small. Why don't we know what I can also do is, you know what, I will
Do you
share.
have yours? I can unshare so that you can share yours. How's that?
I can share the PDF in the chat. And if anyone, because I believe you may need to be here joining on a desktop in order to access this PDF file. If you would like a copy of the flyer emailed to you, feel free to email the Blum Center. I'm going to enter that in the chat. It is pflc@partners.org. We'd be happy to share that with you. It includes details of our upcoming events for the year, as well as link and the QR code to join.
Yes, thank you for putting in the PDF. This series is going to be every other month. Amy has done such a great job of creating incredibly diverse and varied programming through the Blum Center. The Wellbeing Series will be every other month. So the next time we see each other will be November, in which we'll do an Awaken Your Senses. So we'll be using mindfulness practices for daily life. We'll explore with a little bit more fun how else we can bring mindfulness awareness into our lives. And then December is an off month, I guess. Until then in January, we'll discuss recharge your energy, what fills your cup. Like I mentioned earlier, we'll do a really fun exercise of taking a look at your I call it your energy battery. We'll do an exercise of exploring negative, positive energy. And then in March, we'll do the healing power of Reiki. I think we mentioned earlier how I do Reiki. I do it on campus and off campus. And so people are very interested in this. And so I'd love to do an introduction to it. And I've been asked so many times when we'll do another session. And so this is going to be an in-person event so that everyone has a chance to try and experience Reiki in person. And then we'll conclude in May with Spring into Mindfulness with New Beginnings. That will take us to the end of it.
Thank you. I'm also going to enter our Blum Center website for anyone who is interested in viewing today's recording, share with others. Feel free to visit our website. We'll be posting that up. It usually takes about a week or two. It'll be made available there.
So much for all these resources, Amy.
In your previous slide, you had shared some wonderful resources for staff. Do you have any resources for those who are joining who are not staff members of MGH?
There are many websites actually that are available, and I'll be happy to share a list of those websites that we can share with our community at large. But if you go to calm.com, headspace.org has a lot of free resources. They have meditation, actually also YouTube, you guys. If you go on YouTube and enter in meditation or breath work, there's tons of resources there. Exercises that you can do with yourself or with your family members. This is great for kids. If you have babies and kids, there's tons of things you could do with your babies together that is mindful practices that are fun with your family members. And also, if you have trouble sleeping, these websites that I mentioned will have those guided meditations for sleeping. So yeah, there's lots of resources online. And perhaps we can also create a list of resources that could be printed and provided at the center for those in our community who visit the center regularly so that you can pick them up from there.
That would be wonderful. All right, so I think that concludes today's session. Hopefully you found today's session helpful, and we hope that you'll be able to join us for our future sessions, the next one being on November 20th. Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.